Hey, welcome to week 2. My name is Florence, also known as a Chama from faithhealthpotential.com, where I write about all things faith, health, and unlocking your potential so that you can be everything that you have been created to be. So, our theme for this week is stress management basics. By now, you know that stress management is so important to your health and well-being, and it's a great idea to get a handle on what stress is and how you can begin to manage that so your symptoms can reduce, your well-being can increase, and you can do the things that you really want to do in life and live the kind of life that you really want to live. So this is just going to be a brief intro into stress management. Look out for further tips and bits and pieces and my blog post on Friday, where I will go into a bit more depth on all of this. So let's start off with some definitions for stress. There are so many different definitions of stress, and I just want to pick out 3 for you. And go into them in a little bit of detail. So the first one is stress is the adverse reaction people have to excessive pressures or other types of demands placed on them. So it's the adverse reaction that we have to excessive pressures and demands that are placed on us. And when I think about this definition, what comes up for me are words like force and tension. You know, the kind of force, tension, or pressure that could bend or break an object. So when we think about stress, it's like, you know, this feeling of tension, pressure, and force that is exerted upon us that really diminishes our energy and makes us feel like we can bend or break. The second definition of stress is a bit similar. The demands of various types and combinations which exceeds our ability and capacity to cope. So I'll just say that again. The demands of various types and combinations which exceed our capacity and capability to cope. Basically, we don't have enough energy to cope with what life is throwing at us at any given time. So this is really all about energy, really. Stress is about energy and our ability to cope. So our internal energy versus the external energy of stress and life. The final definition that I want to share with you is by Seward, and his definition is the inability to cope with a perceived threat to one's mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and as a consequence results in a series of physiological responses and adaptations. In a nutshell, when we're unable to cope with these stresses, these things that are happening in our lives, it results in physiological responses and adaptations. And that word, responses and also adaptations, is very important because that's where the stress comes in, and that's where we exert our most energy. When we're trying to adapt, when we're trying to respond, when we're trying to cope with what life throws at us. So coping with everyday stresses, coping with stress at any point in time, but even more when you are dealing with a health issue, actually takes up energy because you have to adapt to that stressor, to that situation. The more energy that it takes from you, the more stressed you are. The more stressed you are, the more energy it takes from you. So it's really a cycle of energy consumption. So at a very basic level, when it comes to managing stress, there are 2 things that we can do. There are 2 approaches that we can take. We can either increase our energy, so our ability and resilience when it comes to managing those stresses, or we can make the stresses smaller. We can reduce the energy of those stresses and the impact that they then have on our life. So I just want you to think about this. You know, how How is stress affecting you energy-wise? And how do you tend to cope with stress? Do you tend to increase your energy? And when I say energy, I don't mean work more, but I mean internal energy, your ability to be resilient when it comes to those stresses, or do you push through it hoping for the best? Or do you have ways that you actually reduce those stresses so that the energy isn't so big, the force and the pressure put on you isn't so big anymore? Okay, so that's it for today. Look out for other posts, like I said, on my Facebook page and also on my blog, or if you are a member of my Facebook community. Take care and God bless.